Hello everyone, welcome to episode 8 of Building Prehistoric Islands. Today, we will be working on this massive dagger-shaped island, which is so big that I have to split it up into 2 episodes. The half we're working on today, which I like to call the handle side, is the half that will house all the herbivores on the island. Now, let's get to construction. This time, we will do something different. Instead of starting at the entrance, we will start at the enclosure. However, you are unable to enter the enclosure without heading to this concrete queue first. Once you get past that, you can finally go into your gyrosphere and through this corridor. In this corridor, you will be surrounded by these fiery poles, just to give you that extra bit of suspense. And yes, I do know there's a fire hazard. Finally, at the end of the corridor, you can go through the gyrosphere gate, which will give you access to this ginormous enclosure. In fact, so far, this is the biggest enclosure in the entire park. This enclosure is an herbivore community habitat filled with a total of 5 species inside: Brachiosaurus, Gallimimus, Triceratops, Stegosaurus, and Pachycephalosaurus. Inside the enclosure, there are 3 patches of water, a hill at the back, and a whole load of rocks scattered everywhere. Now, it's time we go back to the guest area of the park, where we will be greeted by some seats. This obviously hints to all of you that there are going to be some amenities on this island. Right here, we have a staff center, but this isn't actually a staff center. Since the gyrosphere is quite a popular attraction, you could expect there to be a lot of guests going there, and the more guests there are, the longer the wait time. So if you need a comfortable place to stay while waiting for the gyro, just stay right over here. But of course, you can't get a ride on the gyrosphere without a ticket, so this emergency shelter is actually used as a ticket booth. If you're looking to get a ticket, it'll cost you a decent $75 per person. Right next to it, there is a large amenity selling burgers. This is the biggest and most popular amenity on the island. In fact, people find the burgers here so good that some people come to the park just for the burgers. To enjoy your burgers, there are some seats right here in front of some wall-to-wall pieces. There's a tiny gap right in between some of the seats, just in case someone wants to squeeze through and get a nice view of the enclosure via this window over here. And right next to that, we have our second enclosure for this video, the Dinocarius habitat. The reason I decided to put this dinosaur in this enclosure is because they are omnivores, and I thought they would be a nice creature to have in the middle of an island that separates carnivores and herbivores from each other. There is a planter border that surrounds the front of this habitat. The dinosaurs can obviously jump over the planters, but luckily, this won't happen because of some invisible fencing underneath the planters. On the other side of the enclosure, the border has switched to heavy fencing. This is so that the future carnivores on the other side of the island don't get any ideas. And finally, at the back of the enclosure, there is some invisible fencing used. This is so the Dinocarius can look out into the outside world. It also makes the enclosure look bigger than it actually is. Behind the enclosure, there is a circular path that branches out 2 different ways. You also may have noticed that the main path used for this island is Luxury Path, which is quite rare when it comes to my builds. In the middle of the circle, there's a small habitat housing a pair of Gigantospinosaurus. However, the more I think about this enclosure, the more I realize that it is way too small for these guys. Off to the side, there are some planters in front of those fiery things I spoke about earlier, and some seats in front of the planters. This turned out so greatly that I decided to put it on the other side of the circle as well. Near the entrance, there are some gift amenities in case you want to bring something home with you. And right next to that, there is a restroom. Yes, I finally added another restroom into the park. The amenities on the other side are some soda and barbecue stalls. They aren't quite as popular as the burgers I showed you earlier, but they still do serve some really good food. Right here, there is quite a whole lot of open space. This is for the carnivorous dinosaurs that I spoke about earlier. And finally, once you enter, you will be surrounded by a whole load of trees. Like and subscribe, and have a great day.